One of the top chess grandmasters from India, Arjun ERIGAISI, playing against one of the top Russian grandmasters, Andrey ESIPENKO, in Title Tuesday Online Blitz tournament on April 1st. ERIGAISI's nickname on chess.com, as you can see, is Gandevam 2003. 2003 is the year ERIGAISI was born. As to Gandevam, this is a legendary bow, wielded by a renowned warrior and archer Arjuna. And Arjuna, which is, by the way, ERIGAISI's first name, so the whole circle is complete. Andrey ESIPENKO goes by the name of Andreyka. And that's a diminutive form of the name Andrey. That's common in Russian couch. With this out of the way, let's look at the game. d4 starts ERIGAISI, knight f6, knight c3, d5, bishop f4, and this is Jabava London, Jabava system, where the knight goes in front of the pawn c. Normally, after the first move d4, white develops this pawn on c4 or c3, and the knight goes usually to d2. But Jabava London is different. It's more aggressive opening for white, and with some ideas of moving the knight on b5 and threatening to take the pawn on c7. And in this game, Andrey ESIPENKO, one of the top grandmasters in the world, forgot some theory. And actually, let's see what happens. He plays c5, which is aggressive response to Jabava London, e3. Now, if white takes pawn on c5, it will be followed by d4, a very unpleasant move for white. And now the knight would have to come back to the square b1 where it started the game, and black's position is clearly better. After e6, the pawn on c5 would be captured, so no material advantage for white, but black have all the initiative. And knight b5 is not possible because of nice geometric motif. Queen a5, check, and next move, the black queen would capture the knight on b5. Therefore, it's not recommended to take the pawn on c5. ERIGAISI plays e3. Exchange of the pawns on b4. Bishop goes to g4, bishop e2, exchange of the bishops on e2, and now white has a threat of playing knight b5. Knight b5 with the next move knight c7, forking the king and the rook. And the knight on b5 would be protected by the queen. So queen a5 check, as we discussed previously, would not work. It would not win the knight. And here, the easiest and the best move for black is a6, not allowing the knight to get to b5. Whether Andrey ESIPENKO forgot about that, or just didn't pay any attention to what white is doing, but he played possibly the worst move in this position, knight c6. And immediately, ERIGAISI plays knight b5. And it turns out that there is no defense from the move knight c7. Rook c8 doesn't help, because in that case, knight jumps to d6. And again, forking the king and the rook. And queen cannot take on d6 because there is a bishop here, and the pawn cannot take on d6 because it's pinned. So the only move would be king d7, and now the knight can take on c8 and win in exchange. With the king being in the middle of the board, black position is totally lost. So ESIPENKO plays queen a5 check, c3, and now it's important that the knight on b5 is protected by the queen, and king d7. Believe it or not, this ugly move is pretty much the only move that saves the game for the nearest future. because otherwise knight c7 would be a devastating blow to black's position. Knight f3, developing another knight. a6, attacking the knight. Knight goes to c7, attacking the rook. Rook c8, and here comes knight e5 check. Knight takes e5, and pawn takes e5, attacking the knight on f6. ESIPENKO takes the knight on c7 and gets e takes f6. And now the rook is under attack, and the best move for black to continue this game was rook c6. And the reason rook c6 works and rook c4 that ESIPENKO plays doesn't work is because after next move, f takes g7, forking the bishop and the rook. Bishop has to take the pawn on g7, otherwise it would be completely lost. Queen g4. Nice geometric motif, checking the king and winning the bishop on g7. ESIPENKO was so upset, I guess, by the game that unfolded that he just resigned in this position. ERIGAISI had 2 minutes and 49 seconds to go in the game, so obviously it's very easily convertible position to a win for a grandmaster of that level, with the extra piece, with extra time, and ESIPENKO resigned. Now, again, in this particular position, the best move to continue was rook c6. And the reason that was the best move, because now after f takes g7, bishop takes g7, check, and in this case, you don't win the bishop for white, because rook blocks the check. Rook e6 with the check. And this position would be actually even. So ESIPENKO could use that opportunity playing rook c6, but he didn't. And after playing rook c4 and queen g4, losing a piece, he resigned. Indian Grandmaster won a very easy game knowing theory. Thank you for watching.